Student engagement in science. Why is it so important? Today, using the Primary Connections Watch It Grow unit of study and examples from the Australian curriculum, I will discuss the relevance of student engagement in teaching science and outline a variety of strategies and techniques that can be used to foster student engagement in science education. Science is everywhere. How the trees produce oxygen is science. Our smartphones and other technologies, science. Our very own biology, science. It goes without saying that science is one of the most important subjects students learn at school due to its relevance in our everyday lives. So how do we teach science? The Primary Connections program and the Australian curriculum both advocate that inquiry is key and use a heuristic teaching and learning model known as the 5 E's. These elements outline the different phases of learning and work together to teach children the necessary problem-solving and critical thinking skills they will need for making future decisions that lead to achievement and success during and after school. Engagement, usually the first element of this 5-phase instructional model, is critical for student learning in science education as it relates to the level of attention, curiosity, interest and passion students show when they are learning or being taught. If students aren't engaged or interested in science, there is a lower chance that they will be motivated to pursue the sciences and progress in their education. The unit of study begins by capturing the student's interests with an activity or question and finding out what students already know about the way living things grow, change and have offspring similar to themselves. As students participate in the various guided investigations, they not only begin to understand this topic, but begin to develop their science inquiry skills and understand science as a human endeavour. The Australian curriculum outlines that these interrelated strands provide students with the understanding, knowledge and skills through which they can develop a scientific view of the world. The Watch It Grow unit aligns with the Australian curriculum's biology strand and aims to aid teachers in adopting an inquiry-based approach to teaching Grade 2 students about how living things grow and change. Students come to school with pre-established ideas formed by their individual experiences. These ideas can either support or inhibit the learning of new concepts. The Primary Connections science units usually introduce topics by engaging the students in a hands-on activity or discussion. For example, in the Watch It Grow unit, students actively observe and discuss what they think they know about mealworms. This process can be used as a form of diagnostic assessment, allowing teachers to assess students' prior knowledge, understanding and possible misconceptions of the topic. It is with this information that teachers can then facilitate appropriate learning experiences and evidence that challenge and assist students in constructing or reconstructing their developing understanding. Vygotsky and Dewey are two theorists who have shaped science education with their belief that knowledge is socially constructed. According to this theory, people construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world through their experiences and by reflecting on those experiences. The 5 E's model is influenced by such constructivist theories, which promote pedagogies that allow for the absorption of new knowledge. Vygotsky's zone of proximal development concept, which identifies that students need the right amount of challenge and support to learn, is prominent in today's classroom and is one element that is key for engaging students in science. A lesson or unit must be relevant, engaging, and importantly, challenging for learners. That is both hands-on and minds-on. The selected unit incorporates several of these elements, with many of the lessons involving some form of active exploration of the science phenomenon. Despite this, how students engage with this topic is dependent on many other factors, including how the topic is taught, if the topic is too difficult, how the teacher supports learning, and the student's own perceptions of their ability to learn. What is taught and how it is taught is critical for student engagement. Therefore, it is important that teachers adopt a pedagogy that facilitates learning. An inquiry-based approach to teaching, where the context or focus for learning is relevant or meaningful to students, is one of several strategies to increase student engagement. Different cultures have different explanations for how and why things happen. For example, Indigenous and Western cultures may have different explanations for why growth and change occur. Incorporating different cultural perspectives allow for all students to connect with science and help students develop their intercultural understanding. The cross-curriculum priorities provide rich and engaging context. In addition to incorporating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures, the Watch It Grow unit encourages students to develop an understanding of how some living things can be impacted by environmental conditions and human impact. This understanding is necessary for students to contribute to more sustainable patterns of living. To foster engagement, teachers need to also be aware of the various learning styles and abilities of their students. One way to gather this information is through observation and assessment. In addition to diagnostic assessment, which occurs usually as a topic begins, Teachers use various forms of formative assessment throughout the exploring, explaining, and elaborating phases of learning to gauge student understanding. As students are making predictions, responding to imposing questions, and recording observations about the life cycle of various living things, such as mealworms, people, and plants, teachers can gauge the amount of guidance and support each student needs to effectively learn and plan activities to suit these needs. Teacher support and positive learning environments are a vital component for engagement in class. Therefore, another strategy for teachers is building positive relationships, creating a positive learning environment, and making connections with the students. If children feel that they belong, are safe, and are valued, they are more likely to be active participants in their own learning. The inquiry approach to teaching, as modelled by the 5 E's, highlights the importance of students taking ownership of their own learning. The selected unit encourages students to formulate their own questions, test their ideas, collaborate with peers, and ask questions that facilitate their own development of scientific concepts. The role of the teacher in this process is to act as a facilitator of learning. This approach does not mean that students are purely independent in their learning. Teachers still need to have a practical knowledge of the theory being taught so that they can assist students to navigate the scientific methods, gain an understanding of the scientific concepts, and develop an understanding of the importance of what they are learning. Overall, engagement is a critical element for student participation and learning in science. When students are positioned to be active participants in their own learning, with the right amount of teacher support and challenge to discover the events and phenomena around them, students can gain the knowledge and skills necessary for making sense of the world and effectively become scientists.